I think it's the negotiations about maybe perhaps an improved contract, because Pitso has obviously been at Sundowns 7 years. Seven years today, actually. He was hired on the 2nd of December 2012. So it's 7 years today.
Wow.
And he's won the CAF Champions League. He's won the league 4 times. He's won the Super Cup. He's won the Nedbank Cup.
TKO.
They're in the final of the TKO now.
Yeah, he's won the TKO once before. The only thing that's eluded him is the top 8. But he's just about done it all. So I think the coach wants to stay to win the 10th title with Mamelodi Sundowns. And I think Mamelodi Sundowns also turn 50, I think next year or soon.
Next year.
Yeah, so he wants to be part of that historic 50th celebration, and to celebrate that, he wants Sundowns to win the league that year, So I think that's probably the only thing that's still keeping him there. I suppose if he signs an extension to his contract, I don't think it will be just 1 season. I think it could be maybe 3 years or 2 years or whatever. But yeah, maybe the coach must also test himself elsewhere, Got all the resources at Mamelodi Sundowns. Go do it.
Almost it all at Sundowns.
Yeah, go do it somewhere else. Maybe outside the continent, or go do it at Chiefs, go do it at Pirates, go do it at Vets. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe the coach wants a fresh challenge. I don't know.
Now we move on to Vets versus Horoya, a goalless draw that was played. Jonty, you tweeted that that game was horrible. Why is that?
Why did I tweet? It was horrible because it was. No, I watched it. Yeah, it was played in Dobsonville in front of no one. Nobody was really there. I guess because CAF
not even a man and his dog.
There was a couple of people in the stands, but I guess because CAF have said that Bidvest Stadium can't host CAF games.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, which doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, that's CAF's regulations.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't a good game. There was no real, I don't think either goalkeeper was forced into much work or to make any excellent saves. Vits at times.
Strong Vits team. Strong
Vits team as well. He picked a strong team. He rested.
Yeah.
Hotto was on the bench and Matupa was on the bench, but the guys, Letshwayo, Lanti, Konazi all started. Domingo played. Doty played. Tsukumanja played. They just didn't create enough for me. Again, at home in a qualifier. In a group stage, in your first group stage game at home, you've got to create more. You've got to do more to win the game, and I don't think they did enough. And fair enough to Gavin Hunt. I mean, Horoya came to basically get a point. They were rolling all over the floor, which didn't help the game either. There were people collapsing with injuries, and it was just that kind of stop-start, scrappy, kind of just dull affair, and it never really looked like there was going to be a breakthrough. Aristide Bance's peroxided hair was probably the most sort of colourful thing about the match.
Intriguing thing.
But on the bright side, though, Vets picked up their first point ever in CAF competition.
In the group stages of a CAF competition. Yeah, I mean, it's positive, but you've got to, ideally you win your home matches and get what you can on the road, because it's always tough. We've got a long trip now to Mali this week, where they're playing Joliba in Bamako, I think. And that's going to be difficult. Always going away from home is more difficult, I think, than hosting games, especially at times on tricky pitches and tricky conditions. So they've got a lot of work to do, but they did get a point. It's better than
nothing. Yeah.
Stating the obvious, but it's better than nothing. But it wasn't a great advert for me for the Continental game. It was a bit scrappy and nothing much, to be honest, happened.
Sure.
Gavin Hunt said afterwards that they created lots of chances and didn't take them. I didn't really get that impression. They created a few chances but didn't take them, but I thought Horoya certainly in the first half also had a couple of chances and didn't take them. It was a tetchy game and I didn't, it just wasn't very enjoyable, goalless draw. But it happens, and like you said, they got a point, and hopefully they can now go on and, maybe if they can, go on and get an away win on Sunday, then they'll be back in a good position in the group.
Okay, now we move on to the Absa Premiership. Plenty of action over the weekend. We're going to start with SuperSport United, who played to a 1-1 all draw against Stellenbosch. Have SuperSport's approach become too predictable, considering their great start to the season? Would you say now they are stalling?
I think, maybe you're right, Lerato. I think maybe predictable is the right word. That the opposition have sort of figured them out. They've been found out, so to speak. Because since the Telkom knockout. Sorry, not the Telkom, the MTN 8. They haven't.
Up and down.
They've been up and down, and all that hype about Gabuza and Grobler, it's almost died down a bit. It's almost like they're not getting the goals. And okay, Aubrey's back now. He's in the lineup as well, and he's trying to be of influence. They're still stable. I mean, they're second on the table.
Yeah, they're second. They're 10 points behind.
10 points behind Chiefs.
Played a game more.
But played a game more, but also played a game more than Mamelodi Sundowns as well. Two more than Sundowns, and a few more than Vets as well. Which, speaking of Vets, they also have it's a tough task, to play catch up and try to balance it with.
If Vets were to win all 4 of their games in hand on Chiefs, they would theoretically be within 3 points of Chiefs. But we all know that games in hand are never points.
Exactly. That's going to be difficult. So I think you're right. I think SuperSport have become a bit predictable, a little bit stale maybe. But the fact that they are still, further up the table, it either says there's some level of consistency, which, that's not quite where I'm going. And then there's also a suggestion that everybody else around them or below them is either also predictable or a bit poor, and at the same time we have a situation where you have two teams behind them who are behind on a number of games played, and they've played a game more than Kaizer Chiefs. I think the only standout sort of the highlight for me in that game is the youngster Apollos.
Yeah, he was unlucky when he hit.
Unlucky hitting a post. Making his debut as well. So it looks like could be another gem. SuperSport are finding a way. At least that's another positive to the whole thing, that they are doing it, and they are exactly, and they are also showing that they are trusting the youth as well. You've got Deboho Mukwena, you've got Sipombule, you've got Jamie Weber, you've got Luke Fleur at the back, and let's forget Ronwen's still pretty young also. Also, I think you'll sign a new long-term deal soon as well to commit his future to the club. So there's a lot of positives there on and off the pitch. They've already won a trophy. They're in top 2, but when you look at their performance, when you isolate look at their performance in isolation, then it suggests that they're definitely blowing hot and cold. And Gabuza and Grobler's purple patch, I think it's sort of evaporated.
Grobler hasn't scored for. He was ill on the weekend. He didn't play, but he has certainly faded since his amazing start to the season. And I thought Mahachi was a bit unlucky. He also hit the post, scored a good goal. He did pretty well. But then there was just one really poor. I thought it was a good pass through the middle, but the defenders should have done better for Isaac's goal. And he just went straight through the middle. And that's just a lapse in concentration, I guess. And then they end up only with a point from a game they really should have won at home to Stellenbosch, albeit that Stellenbosch have also improved.
Yeah, they have the grinding on those results.
Yeah, but it's a game that SuperSport, if they've got realistic title ambitions, should definitely be winning.
Yeah.
And I think they're a bit too far behind. 10 points if Chiefs win their game in hand, 13 points. It's starting to look way off into the distance a little bit. So I hopefully they can get back on a bit more of a run and start to challenge. Otherwise, I guess they got to look at the Nedbank Cup next year.
We move on to Bloemfontein Celtic versus Polokwane City, where the Bloemfontein Celtic claimed 1-0 victory. It's bad for Polokwane. I think they suffered their 8th loss in 13 games.
That's also spot on. I think that's surprising that they haven't acted so quickly. They've got to stop the rot. You know what I mean? But they haven't hired a coach. There are so many. Unless the chairman really is looking to hire an unknown entity somewhere abroad to bring them in, and negotiations are taking forever, because after obviously the farmer what's his name is Kromtich or Zlatko Kromtich, the carpenter. The carpenter is responsible for the first couple of run of defeats, and then obviously Bernard had taken over but can't change things around. So I'm surprised that there's one or two coaches, for instance, Kevin Johnson, available, knows the PSL, experienced, can come in and try to stabilize the team. But I don't know. Maybe there've been negotiations and behind closed doors or whatever. But that it's taken Chairman Johnny Mukhaladi so long.
Yeah, I mean they're approaching 10 games.
Yeah, to make an appointment and help the team, because otherwise they could possibly be in a relegation zone or be candidates to actually be relegated. Their saving grace is there are so many other teams within that space that are also doing poorly. Chipa United also still struggling, although they're picking up slightly, but they're still struggling to come off the foot of the table. So there are a lot of other factors, but I'm surprised that there hasn't been an appointment as yet.
I mean, I was at the game against Pirates last week, I think it was, and they lost 3-2.
Yeah.
They weren't bad. They fought hard, and they took the lead, but they couldn't hold on to it, and they kept fighting to the end. They got another goal, and then they could actually have made it 3-3. Pirates' defence is quite funny to watch these days. But anyway, but they need to start picking up results. And again, that game against Celtic is a game that they would probably look to as a game that they want to win, as opposed to a game at Pirates. In theory, with Pirates playing well, which they're not really at the moment, but you wouldn't look at that game and say, we're going to win that. But against Celtic are a team sort of vying for a similar position, it's looking pretty grim. And as Mazola said, you would have thought they would have acted a bit quicker to replace Krumpetic, and perhaps they should never have hired Krumpetic in the first place, but that's also another discussion.
What do you think they should have gone for?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously Vukovic for me was a good coach. He didn't want to stay in Polokwane. They made it quite clear. I'm not joking.
Yeah, that's true.
He coached Cape Town, and not all he could talk about, but he spoke about how him and his family stayed on this seafront flat in Cape Town. Who was he coaching in Cape Town? There was a team in Cape Town he was coaching. My brain's gone empty, but in the NFD it was
FC Cape Town.
Right, so he liked it there.
Yeah.
So now he's in Durban. Obviously he's good.
Yeah, who wouldn't like
Durban on the coast? He didn't like Polokwane. That was one of the serious motivating factors, and his family didn't want. More to the point, his family did not want to live in Polokwane, which is part of the reason I think why Vukovic left. And I think that's
because it's not like he left to go take up a job.
He left theoretically to go back to Slovakia and be with his family. Yeah. And then obviously the offer came in from Amazulu, and he came back. And Durban is more appealing than Polokwane to
of course
the Vukovic family, which is fine. But I do think they need to maybe take a look at bringing someone in. Kevin Johnson was spotted in Polokwane at some point last week. Or around.
Do you think he's still there?
What, doing a bit of shopping?
I don't think so. Somebody put a photo on social media of him in Polokwane. Whether they were spreading rumours, because the photo could have been anywhere. There was no Polokwane landmark that made me think it's definitely there. But could really have been anywhere. But he's where am I? I lost myself there. But I would hire someone, honestly, because Malek was a nice guy, but I don't think he's really a permanent head coach for City.
No. I mean, and his spell as interim, remember there was a spell where he took over as interim coach for the entire season, and they very nearly got relegated. I think they finished in 10th place. So yeah, I mean, I think it's stating the obvious to say they need a coach. They need a coach that the players can start sort of believing in. They need a coach that can help them turn the results around, unless they think Bennett can turn it around. Because I mean, obviously he knows the club through and through, but I don't think the job seems a bit too big for him. All the work that was done by Vukovic and maybe even Luke AML, if you want to stretch it that far, has been undone by the carpenter who took over the first couple of games, so let's see what happens. No, sorry, I didn't like the fact that they hired that guy with such a horrible CV, when there's so many coaches that could have been
coaches that
could have gone for the job. Exactly, CVs that are more appealing, absolutely.
Another team that has been impressive this season, regardless of the minimal of resources, Bloemfontein Celtic. I mean, would you say Ulihlohonolo Siema is being overlooked, is being underrated, considering all the challenges that Bloemfontein Celtic has faced, and I think they fifth on the log now. They're doing pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, they started very well, and I remember that game when they beat Golden Arrows 5-0. And the type of football that they were playing, and at the end of it, there were results as well with the 5 goals, and then even when they were knocked out, even when they knocked out of the cup in the MTN 8 against Sundowns, they still were playing some decent football, but they were, they left gaping holes at the back, and they were punished because they were playing against a stronger opposition with a even better attacking threat. But overall, I think they've also been up and down. I've been up until that last the last few minutes of the game. I honestly thought it was headed for a goalless draw, but I think when you have a bit of luck on your side, then you're able to get the results. But whether the co-coaches John Maduka and Lihlohonolo Siema, yeah, I think they've done enough the previous season, carrying on from where Coach Steve had left off to warrant being given the full season, especially if management felt like, look, we maybe don't even have the finances to bring in a coach that you could perhaps learn from. Because I don't think if they do badly, I don't think John Maduka and Siema are going to leave the club. I think if they do badly, they'll probably just be redeployed to being assistant coaches and bring in someone perhaps who's got more experience than them to learn from them. But look, this is the PSL. Anybody can beat anybody, and if you go on a good, decent run of games, you can find yourself in the top 8. And I think you could argue that's the case with them, that they would have had a slump at some point, and then they picked up points the last game or whatever, and then it pushed them up. You look at Orlando Pirates also as an example, 8th on the table, but 5 points from I think 3rd or 2nd place. So you just need a good run of games. If they win their 2 games against Baroka and Black Leopards, and those about them slip, then they so it's like this. So sometimes it's difficult to judge, unless when you are really struggling like Polokwane City, then that's pretty obvious. That's pretty obvious that they need a coach, they need to stabilize. But Siema and them, it's it's hard to gauge. So you kind of take it game by game, especially when you see how the game model. If you see subs, end product in future, and not immediately, I think.
We have a comment from one of our followers on Twitter @FootballTypeboy. He says, except for Chiefs, the only team which has been consistent with L's is Polokwane City.
He's spot on. He's right. He's right.
He's consistent with W's.
They've been very consistent with taking the L. That's for sure.
And the same person at Football Tepo again says he thinks Patrick Asuyams is favourite to take over at Polokwane City with his club Simba SC having sacked him recently.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That when you look, because there's also been I think there's another Belgian coach as well who's been linked with the job at Polokwane City. Obviously there's Kevin Johnson, names pop up, and I'm sure, look, I'm pretty sure the chairman of Polokwane City has had agents ringing him up telling him we have a coach.
There's plenty of options.
There are plenty of options. He's the only one that can break the silence and tell us why he hasn't hired a coach and what exactly he's looking for. Because I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, the PSL is so attractive, especially in and around the continent, that you would even have a guy with a glowing CV like Norman Mapeza risking it all by taking a job at Chippa, not knowing whether he'll last a day or if he'll last a year, you know. So imagine if there's a job that opens up at Polokwane City, who finished in the top 8 the previous season, and even with limited resources, you know that if you come in, put in a structure, you can get the job done. So I don't think he's short of, the chairman is short of candidates, but it's just a matter of who comes in. So yeah, I mean, you can throw in any names that you want in there. I'm pretty sure we can link as many names as possible. I'm pretty sure.
It's not Z whatever.
Yeah, no, not
he's proven not to be.
Not the carpenter, no.
Let's move on.
Really doesn't like competition.
We are still live on Twitter and YouTube. Please do engage with us at FRUN Sport, and we will read your tweets and respond to any questions that you might have. We move on to Golden Arrows versus Black Leopards. Golden Arrows' good run came to an end. They've been pretty impressive also this season. They lost 2-1 to Black Leopards.
So the AMIL, Steve Compella.
I wonder if they shook hands. I don't know. I wonder if they shook hands or hugged, or I don't know. It would have been interesting. We must ask some reporters who were there to ask if you know, how was the mood between the
Someone
two coaches.
said that moves had been made behind the scenes. I heard to
make
by
sure
the two
that
parties to sort of calm each other down from.
Okay.
What did Compella say about MIL? He mustn't ever come back.
Yeah, he mustn't come back, and he shouldn't be hired by anyone.
It would be interesting if they shook hands. So to those who are at the stadium, if you saw
something, tell us.
Tweet us, let us know. Pella, we want to know. You know?
Obviously, for Leopards, that's a good win.
Yeah,
in
they
terms
moved
of recovery.
to 9th in the table.
Yeah,
So
under MIL, who is a good coach.
it goes back
he
to
puts
what you
the
said,
structure in
Mazola,
place.
about just 2 wins, you might see yourself up there. So
because they were just coming off a defeat against Chippa United, I think, and they were trailing in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they scored 2 late goals, I think. Two
Yeah.
goals to turn it around. I think that Emile is a coach, as I said, who does put a structure in place, and who is he's been at Polokwane City, he did well there. He's been at Free State Stars, he did well there, albeit that sometimes the stuff he says, both to other coaches or about other teams and to the media, rubs people up the wrong way. I mean, the same thing with the media. He gets a bit too personal about things. I think maybe he's calmed down in Toyando. I haven't heard much from him, but he is a good coach, and I think he'll get Leopards up the table. I don't think they'll be battling relegation at the end of the season, especially now that Mwape Musonda is back on board and firing, because his goals also will keep Leopards out of trouble.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be fine. And Arrows will also be fine, and it's just a blip for them, but they've done well this season.
Yeah, I think also Leopards probably will make some changes in January as well. I think
within their squad.
Yeah, I think we've already reported that there'll be several players expected to leave. Karabo Tepe, Siabonga Zulu, Joseph Mklongo, just to name a few. And I think Luke, obviously having arrived, just after the season had started. I think he arrived after 4 games or 5 games, whatever, because the Lionel, the Frenchman, also another bizarre appointment. Anyway, he also couldn't get the results there, and Luke comes
in and out.
In and out.
You can say his name.
I think they actually wanted to give him the boot 2 games in. I don't know what actually stalled the whole thing, but him and Patrick Mabedi out of there. Luke MIL comes in, stabilizes the ship, and I think people also know what he can offer as well, and I think he's gonna want 1 or 2 players that are chosen by him if the club can help it, especially if there's more than likely to be 4 players leaving in January. Obviously they've brought in other players that were free agents. So let's see. I mean, it's a good thing also that Musonda is scoring goals again. I think it's important for Leopards to still keep him, because obviously, he very nearly left the country to go to China or Turkey because there was interest there. But he's around, he's playing, because the club had also not registered him starting the beginning of the season, then changed their minds when it looked like he would stay. So yeah, it's one of those. I think Luke, if he takes that recess, obviously there'll be a recess. I mean, he's had FIFA breaks to fine tune a couple of things. There'll be another recess now before New Year's, and then he can do that, and then the transfer window opens. Let's see, maybe he finds a couple of free agents, or he finds a couple of players that are happy to move and they're not expensive in the January window, and then maybe Leopards can try and aim to push for top 8. Or even, try to even go for the Nedbank Cup, because Luke has won the Nedbank Cup before with Free State Stars, so he kind of knows how to win a domestic trophy with a club with. I wouldn't say Leopards have limited resources given the players that they've brought in, given the wage bill this season with Thabo Matlaba, not Method Monjali, no. What's his name? The striker who moved from Sundowns, Cuthbert Malajila, Tuso Pala, Mukhakholo Dingele. So already you see the wage bill is quite high. There's experienced players who can deliver as well. So
we're in a Nedbank Cup final when they were an NFD team, so there's no reason they can't.
Exactly.
Getting one now.
So you never know with a couple of fine tuning here and there, given the caliber of the coach that Luke is. You never know. But having said that, also results are just too unpredictable in the PSL as well.
Absolutely. We have a question from @grit_sports. Do you guys think if Kompela gets sacked by Golden Arrows, will he ever get another coaching job in South Africa? Interesting.
Whoa, is Kompela getting sacked by Golden Arrows?
Grit, do you know?
Something we don't.
Maybe you know something we don't know, yeah.
I don't.
What do you know?
Yes.
Grit? Let us know.
The answer to that question is yes. Kompela will get a job. He's a good coach at these. He just didn't go well for him at Chiefs.
Yeah.
I thought he was lucky to last 3 seasons, if I'm honest, because he just didn't get trophies. And he wasn't able to challenge for the league, really. But yeah, he seems to be able to put. I mean, we talked about Celtic earlier. Siama always talks about how he's basically just using the structure left behind by Steve Kompella. So he can certainly build a side up, and I think he's done a good job so far with Arrows. Obviously, he did a good job with Free State Stars, Mazona's hometown team. He's an experienced coach, and you don't just dismiss that from the coaching merry-go-round. He'll definitely get a job if he gets sacked by Arrows.
Yeah, and I also
don't think Arrows are about to sack him, as far as I know.
If he were to get sacked, what do you think he would go? Like, what do you think he'd be a perfect fit?
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Polokwane City need a coach. But I don't think Arrows are going to sack him.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think he's... unless
or we could go back to Celtic, but that didn't end particularly well. So I don't know.
Unless the person who asked the question knows more than we do, but I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Also, I think Steve, it's more than just. We have to also understand that it should at some point it should be more than just about winning a cup. Think of the number of players that Steve has produced, from your Free State Stars days, Dynamos, Platinum Stars, Kaizer Chiefs, the number of young players that he would have given an opportunity there as well. What he's doing at Golden Arrows at the moment with players that, Mangoba Mngiti was talking about it, 2 weeks ago, that when he was at Golden Arrows, some of those players were playing for the under-10s, and now Steve is trusted them enough to play for the senior team, which Clinton Lassen was trying to do as well, trying to get the results. But over time, it doesn't. And of course, Steve has to keep delivering a somewhat satisfactory log table finish for Golden Arrows, and maybe it would be nice a cup here and there, domestic cup here and there, because I don't think Golden Arrows ever see themselves as a team that's going to be title contenders, a team that's going to, give Chiefs Pirates, Sundowns, SuperSport and Wits a run for their money for the championship, and even Cape Town City. But if they can find themselves they're about qualifying for the top 8, going further, in like they did now in the Telkom knockout, bowing out in the semi-finals. I think that's a good shout. Exactly.
I
think that's a good shout.
Before Leopards, they beat Sundowns, didn't they?
Exactly.
So you can't really talk about them.
So I think that's a good shout. I think it has to be. We shouldn't always equate success with a trophy. Although at the end of the day, that it is a results-driven business, but a team also has to know their limits. They also know what they require from a coach at the helm at the time. That's why obviously Steve didn't last long well, it is 3 years was long, but longer because there was no trophy, and it's Kaizer Chiefs. It was unacceptable to a level. Yeah.
We also had a couple of draws. 3 games played to a draw. Cape Town City versus Highlands Park, and all the other teams. Norman picking up crucial points over the weekend.
I mean, you mentioned Cape Town City as well.
Nil.
That's
I mean, the coach
really
is the coach a movie star, or is he a coach? He looks more like a movie star than a coach, but
he was coach at Ajax Amsterdam.
No, he's got a great CV. I'm just saying the results haven't. It's 2 back-to-back goalless draws now. Anyway,
Have they lost yet?
I don't think they've lost. I mean, there was
the match they played after Benny McCarthy. I think they lost.
Black Leopards. He wasn't technically in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been there watching from the stands, but I don't think
he got his work permit after the November international break.
He wasn't technically in charge. It's that game where, apparently they were robbed in Toyando, and Kermit took to Twitter about
one of those things where there's no television
exactly. It's like, well, Kermit, you can rant all you want, but nobody saw it. You know what I mean? So I don't think Coach Jan was in charge already at the time. He might have been watching from the stands. So technically he hasn't lost yet, which I suppose it's a good
for him.
It's good for him that he hasn't lost yet. But 2 back-to-back goalless draws at that. Goalless draws. It's not a good look, especially after you fired the coach. So which maybe suggests the coach wasn't the problem. I don't know. I don't want to go too deep. But you also mentioned.
Feel free. The floor.
No, I mean too deep in the sense that I don't necessarily. I am not privy to much of the information. I'm privy to some information, but not a whole lot more. So maybe the problem wasn't just the coach, unless results improve drastically.
The only thing I'll say is that the City defence did badly need some stability, but perhaps
and they've kept
bringing that
2 clean sheets.
Now got to really turn around the attack again, because the problem is he's now focused on trying to sort out the defence, which wasn't great this season under Benny, and we know he wanted a central defender. Robin Johannes, he didn't get him, so they brought in.
You got the Greek guy,
the Greek gentleman, and I think obviously he stabilised that. So he could argue, well, he's only had 2 games in charge. He stabilised the defence. Now, from now on he must start picking up 3 points rather than 1. But it's early days. You can't be talking about him being a failure just yet. So,
but you can talk about Norman, because the trigger happy chairman there. If the results don't come, then you're gone. But I think, I mean, my assessment is that Chipa have started to improve. I think Norman's getting some results as well, but they still haven't moved up the table. I think they're still rock bottom, right? I think they're still bottom of the table, and games are coming in thick and fast. You have now where the next FIFA break is only in March. So that means, there is that recess for Christmas, but that means games are just coming in thick and fast. And if you don't get the results there, you could reach the halfway mark of the season. And if you bottom of the log, the harder it is. When you're at so further down the table at this stage of the season, it becomes even harder to keep winning games, because unless the teams above you are just as bad, and I think that's probably the case now for Chipa.
And Baroque also missed an absolute sitter right at the end of that game to win it. Ball fell so nicely. I think it was Kumalo in the box, and he just put it over the bar. I think if Wedson near Ender had any hair, he would have torn it out. He looked furious, absolutely furious, because obviously they're also in a bit of a pickle and struggling, and also scrapping for those vital points. And and he's also a guy who almost went to Zambia. There was talk of him going to Zambia in the Arenda. And since they won the Telkom knockout, amazingly, beating Pirates in the final about a year ago, it's just not really gone great for him. They haven't really been able to put much of a run together of results. So that's another one.
But they look like, it looks like they've backed him though, I'm surprised. I mean, I would have thought, not that the chairman there is known to be trigger happy, but I would have thought, ending the season poorly and starting it just as bad, maybe by now they might have made a coaching change, but maybe they see something maybe a bit more long term, and they trust the coach to say, look, we believe you can turn it around, maybe even up to a certain point. I mean, even when there were rumors about him, going back to his native country and taking the national team job there, the chairman at Baroka still said, look, this is our guy, we'll continue to back him. So let's see. Also, positive results can help you stay in the job longer.
Absolutely.
And then, Maritzburg need to be a bit careful, because they followed up reaching the final of the Telkom with losing to Supersport and drawing with Amazulu.
I think people were expecting a miracle with Maritzburg United. I mean, considering their game against Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah, they were solid.
So people thought, but
and even Lerato, even the results before that, I've watched Maritzburg quite a bit this season also, because I was just interested to see how they plug the gaps left by Makaringe and Ndlovu as well, and especially with Sianda Tulu when he got injured as well, leaving a gaping hole in that defensive midfield role, where when he had played there, I don't think they'd conceded at all, or if they had, they'd conceded fewer goals. So it was interesting to see the new dynamic with coach Eric Tinkler to try and see if they can deliver. And then you have a Jeremy Brokey who's still looking for a goal as well. So before the Chiefs game, I thought they had a very good team that could beat Chiefs and reach the final. And after that, obviously after the performance against Chiefs, a lot of people then also felt maybe this team can continue to even get better results in the league. But that just hasn't happened. I don't know if maybe they need to get off the cloud nine after that result against Chiefs. They now their heads are already firmly fixed on the Telkom knockout final on December 14. I don't know what it is.
They got in some good positions, but they weren't able to convert against Amazulu.
It was Musia Medi again.
It was Kutumana
with 16 chances and 1-2 on target.
No, it wasn't that many, but it was a scrappy little it was a scrappy KZN derby. But they just weren't able to convert chances. Amazulu are another team who are struggling and have been struggling all season, and already sacked Kevin Johnson. And with Vukovic, it always seems a little bit like he could be also in trouble.
Sure, if they sack him, imagine he'll be smiling all the way to the bank. I mean, the man just signed a 3-year contract, and if he's sacked, that's a nice little payday.
I think he must just make sure he keeps them up, but it doesn't look like there's going to be much else for them at the moment.
Yeah, and start afresh next season. Yeah,
certainly De Ruyck, I think, from Maritzburg has been
top,
a revelation,
top class. Yeah,
with Kulu and Ngonyama out for a bit. I don't know what happened there, but he's done really well, the youngster. And I think Eric is a good coach, and they'll be fine. They just need to maybe just get their focus back on the league until the Telkom knockout final. And then if they win the Telkom knockout, they also need to stay level-headed, because we saw what happened to Baroka last season.
We are running out of time. Let's move on to our next topic. You made headlines last week Thursday. Do you guys watch Marawa TV? You do, right? You saw what happened? George Lebese?
Well, I mean, I saw it trend, but I haven't.
I didn't see Marawa TV, but I saw the
some
story.
of the clips where George Lebese was expressing himself, talking about his move from Kaizer Chiefs to Mamelodi Sundowns, basically saying that his move from Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken, was motivated by, traitors. They called him a traitor and stuff like that. Also, he said that he hasn't done really well at Mamelodi Sundowns, as expected during his stay at Mamelodi Sundowns, because he did partly blame himself as to he thinks he didn't do well enough to impress the coach, but sort of tried to shift the blame in a way. I don't want to say much, but my question is going to be, why aren't the team? He's a free agent currently. Why do you guys think teams aren't signing him?
Money.
Money
Look,
would have to be one thing. Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons, because I'm puzzled that, okay, fine, maybe at Mamelodi Sundowns he came across as maybe he didn't work hard enough, to convince the coach that he's good enough to play in the team.
When he went to Sundowns, there was tight competition already.
Yeah,
Sundowns were on top of their
absolutely.
form.
I mean, it was always going to be tough. Make no mistake about it. It was always going to be tough for him to break through at Sundowns. But because they made him feel wanted, I think he thought it was going to be a little bit easier than what it turned out to be. And he went to Super Sport. I think Caetano did try to give him as many chances as possible to play, but he lacked match fitness, and maybe he wasn't in the right headspace. I'm not too sure, because I mean, I don't think there was even discussions to try and buy him permanently for him to move to Super Sport. It was just a 6 months loan, and it ended at that. He had to go back to Chlorkop, which subsequent to that he negotiated his release. But I'm still puzzled that a player, there's no doubt that he's talented. Perhaps there are question marks about how hard he works, and whether he wants it. The hunger is still there. That's something that he can answer himself. When he has the platform, and also when he is given a chance to play. But I do think perhaps his personal demands are,
standing in the way.
Standing in the way, because I think.
Definitely,
yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the situation with Brocky, he was at Sundowns forever.
Yeah.
Before he moved, I think basically because, partly at least, because nobody wanted to
pay the
demands,
wages. Yeah.
And he probably had to sacrifice a little bit finally to get a move to Merits.
Absolutely.
So Lebese's probably going to have to make a sacrifice. At the end of the day, if he wants to play, he's probably going to have to take quite a pay cut.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not prepared to do that. If you look at a guy like Sipiwe Shabalala, since he came back from Turkey, he's been a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And there's clubs circling around him. There's clubs that want to sign him, from my understanding. But his salary is a big stumbling block, because obviously when he went to Turkey, he got paid very well, and he was getting paid very well at Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this is a big playing card in this situation.
Huge playing card for George. I think if George were to lower his demands, he could get a team tomorrow. I honestly believe it. I honestly believe you can't have a player that's played for Kaizer Chiefs, Super Sports United, and Mamelodi Sundowns, and had a Bafana stint as well. And you know what he can offer when he's fit, and he's willing to graft. You know the talent is there. So why. So I think it's like Jonty is saying. It's a huge part of it. The other issue might be location as well. You might have had, I don't know, a Black Leopards or a Polokwane City make an offer, or a Bloemfontein Celtic, but he doesn't want to live there. But at this point in time in his career, I don't know if he can afford to be picky. I
was about to say.
Yeah, I don't. He can't afford to be picky. He's looking for game time, because time is running out. At the end of the day, if he doesn't get a team soon, then he will be forgotten. He will be forgotten. But let's hope that's not the case. But he probably has to decide whether he's willing to take a pay cut, because I think that's a huge part of it.
Say he takes the pay cut. Which team, right at this stage, do you think George would fit perfectly in it?
it's tough because he's not a, he's not a out and out typical winger that's speedy and crosses and whatever. And also he's also not your typical number 10 as well, but I know he can play either as a 10, he can maybe even play as a 6, he can play on the left or even right wing. But it is difficult because if you watched him in the last 6 months or the only 6 months he spent at SuperSport, Caetano was trying very hard to fit him into his system, and it didn't quite look like he was the right fit. So the honest answer, Lerato, is I don't know which
the first thought I had was Wits.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they will pay his salary because they've had their financial issues this season, by my understanding, and by what the club has said.
And vets do need players. Gavin had said they need players.
And they need creative.
Yeah.
After this game, he was talking about how they can't score goals. I think the last goal they scored the only goal they scored in their last 3 games was a penalty against Highlands Park. They can't hit the back of the net. They're not helped by the fact that they haven't played enough. It seems a bit absurd to me that Wits have only played 8 league games. I don't really understand. Yes, they've been involved in African competition, but there's been weeks when you think, like this week, I think they were even trying, by my understanding, to get a game. I'm going off on a complete tangent here. To get a game this week, but they couldn't get one.
Yeah.
But I would say Wits, Wits. But it all depends on whether, Gavin will let him. My understanding of Gavin is that, if Lebese went to Wits and said, "Can I train with you?" Wits will probably let him, because they do have a lot of players training that they don't eventually sign. I know that Chumayelo was training there for a bit. So
before he signed.
It's also, I think, up to George Lebese to maybe try and do that, or
I know he wouldn't
keep himself fit or something.
Fit in Bloemfontein Celtic, considering the financial issues.
Same issue as Wits as well. Although maybe Wits have a little bit more to play around with than Celtic. Yeah, but I don't know which team could. Let's.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen this on social media, Twitter specifically. There is a petition going on from some Kaizer Chiefs fans pleading Chiefs to take back George Lebese, just forget about some of the things he said when he left. Those who disagree with the petition, they pulled out some of George's tweets from way back saying, I want to play for a more decent team. I don't know if Chiefs is not decent.
I did see something like that. But I will say, he's not going to fit in the Chiefs team. They're doing too well. Why would they want him back?
Have Chiefs ever taken a player back in recent times?
Recently,
has Chiefs ever taken a player back? Do you know? Tweet us and let us know.
Unless you're coming from overseas, would that being the exception? They
would take for example, Knowledge Musona back in a heartbeat.
And they've done that before. He's come back and played for a season or a loan for 6 months or what have you. They would probably take Shaba if he said I'm gonna stop pursuing this dream to keep playing abroad. And a couple of other.
Back.
Obviously, there were bridges burnt there, But have Chiefs, it's a genuine question. Have Chiefs ever taken a player locally back? I don't think so. I don't think Chiefs take them back. If you leave and they give you their blessing and you say that's what you want to do. They've taken plenty coaches back. The current coach has been there before. But players, I don't know if Chiefs have taken players back. Have they even bought players back? I don't know. I can't think.
But if you do know, please just let Mazola and Jonty know.
So I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any chance George goes back to Chiefs. Not a chance.
We are running out of time, and our last topic for the evening: the PSL and
SAFPU.
What does
SAFPU agreement?
Yeah. What does it do for the players?
Look, I think it's 20 years late. What? When was SAFPU established? Maybe that's exaggerating to say 20 years late, but it should have been in existence
a long time ago. But having said that, it is a landmark agreement
to say the two associations will work hand in hand. Obviously, when there's player disputes, clubs are now, or the PSL is now saying clubs will give them access to the players. I think they even mentioned how many times per season for the SAFPU delegates to go and talk to players, and because you've had SAFPU on social media as well. They can be very vocal.
Yeah.
They've shown video clips or where they went to Jomo Cosmos and they were trying to get in to have a meeting with players, and the gates were locked. SAFPU were telling they can't come in to talk to players. So I would imagine the agreement sort of prevents things like that, where if there's contract disputes, there's wage disputes or whatever, as many cases that we've reported on before, that SAFPU can actually call the club and say set up a meeting with the chairman or the football manager there and have a meeting and have a play without a player being victimized. So it opens the door for honest communication. But my biggest thing also is the minimum wage sort of debate that SAFPU opened up many years ago. I mean, when I was starting out as a journalist, SAFPU were already sort of discussing this and wanting, and it's 11 years later, and that's still not the case. You still have clubs that are exploiting, especially the young players coming through the ranks with shocking contracts, senior contracts. So. Is it something that's going to happen with this agreement? Well, one certainly hopes so. You would imagine that if the football union, players union, and the league come to some sort of historic landmark agreement, it would cover all aspects. So let's see.
I just hope again it's about the players getting proper representation. As I just said. I mean, obviously, stories of players at big clubs earning pittance is not good, and if something's done about that and the PSL can help with that, then all the better. So it's a landmark signing of an agreement so far. If it's going to be a landmark agreement, only I think time will tell, because we need to actually know if it has a positive effect or if the status quo remains.
And we must get updates. I mean, this thing of things being okay, fine, I get that we don't have to always know everything. But things must be out in the open, just as the agreement was signed out in the open, at a press conference instead of a press release. Let's hear
the success stories.
Let's hear the success stories. Let's be transparent. Let's not leave it at signing at the PSL offices and that's that. Let's hear the stories. Let's hear of the disputes, how they were solved, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Gentlemen, we've come to the end of our show. Any final comments from your side regarding the topic that we had today? Teams that impressed you over the season the most, over the weekend?
Sundowns.
Definitely.
Yeah, obviously Sundowns. I think Leopards. I think getting a win at home. They let's see if they're able to stabilize things there. So otherwise that's not. I think maybe Stellenbosch coming back from a 4-0 thrashing against Chiefs and going away to SuperSport,
getting a point,
who one could argue are equally as good and getting a point. So that should be a highlight for Coach Stevie Baka.
Okay. Okay, mine will be Bloemfontein Celtic. I'm not being biased because I'm from Bloem, but it's going to be Bloem Celtic. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Continue interacting with us on our social media account at FRUN Sport. That is all from all of us here. Thank you.
Cheers.